So today I'm going to talk about the blue line color method, which is a way of coloring your comics traditionally without going straight over your ink lines at risk of ruining them. So basically we're going to be printing our black line on a clear sheet of acetate or transparency paper like this. You can find it just online or at Office Max or any of those office stores. It's pretty common. And then we're going to be printing the blue line, which is just an exact copy of your inks, but in a very light blue, onto a different sheet and overlaying them together to create one image that will then be scanned. So I'm going to go over the computer and show you how to set up these files for print, and then I'll give you an example of what it looks like in real life. So we're going to make a Photoshop file that is the size of the paper that we're going to be printing on. This is 11 by 15 because that's the size of the watercolor paper that I use. And by the way, you're going to want to make sure that the acetate is the same size as the paper that you're going to be coloring on. So we have our file. We're going to drop our line art in. Now we want to take the line art scan and turn it into just black pixelated lines, like a bitmap. So adjustment black and white, just hit OK. Now it's black and white. We're going to go to adjustment, image adjustment, and then threshold. And this is what's going to turn all the image into just pure black and white. Black pixelated lines. The default is 128. You can adjust it to make it to get like more blacks or less, but 128 works fine for me. I think it's actually the perfect range. So then next to layers over here is the RGB layers. Other layers, I'm going to do Shift Command RGB and then Shift Command I. And what that does is just select the pixelated black lines that we made. So then I go to Layer and New Layer. You can obviously do this with the keyboard shortcuts, but I don't know all of those by heart. So now on this blank layer, while we still have all the black lines selected, I go over and turn my paint bucket to just 100% cyan. And I drop that in. So now we have a new layer that is just cyan. And with the pixelated lines, if you zoom in really close, you're going to see this, which doesn't look ideal for print, but it is. The ink is going to bleed into that, and this is the best way to get crisp black lines. So you could print the 100% cyan to color over, but it's going to be a lot more noticeable if it's off registration under the black. So I go over and turn it to 15% opacity, and that is the percentage that works best for me. It's clear enough to see when you're working on it, but only leaves a faint trace of the cyan if it's off register. So now we have our cyan layer that you're going to be coloring on, and you're going to print this on the sheet that you're going to be doing your color on. Like in my case, I print this on the watercolor sheet. Then we have our black layer that you're going to print on the acetate sheet. And again, I like to make the acetate sheet and the color sheet the same size so that it lines up really easily. So yeah, that's it. You're going to print, or you're going to color on this, throw your acetate layer over it, and like magic, it'll look really cool. And you can tape these together and kind of flip back and forth to check your artwork. And I will show you that in a minute. Okay, so here's a page I did with traditional color, watercolor on the blue line, and with the acetate black line overlay. So I just went in here, you can see this is the 15% cyan, and it's printed out. It's exactly the same as my line art. The acetate and the watercolor sheet is the same size so that it lays on quite nicely. I just anchor it on one end with a piece of tape so that when I'm coloring, I can throw this down and just kind of make sure everything is looking correct. And you can see up here, just putting it down, it's off registration. So before you, after you finish everything and before you scan it, you just move around the layer to make sure it all lines up everywhere on the page, not just on one spot. But you have to really check to make sure everything on the page is at least decent. It is never going to be perfect. And then you can put on another piece of tape. 2 pieces tends to work. You can use more if you want. And then when everything is lined up, you can go ahead and scan it and make adjustments on Photoshop if you need to, color adjustments. I hope that was helpful. If there are any questions about this process or anything else concerning traditional comics making, please let me know, and I will try my best to give a good answer and maybe even make another video about it, explaining it, or just talking about it. I love talking about this stuff in general, so yeah, thank you for watching.